Smritipurananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarasto Andhakaro Vai Rukarasto Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Ahamasmi sadabhami kadachit nahamapriyaha brahmaiva aham atas siddham satchidananda lakshanam. So we resume our examination, our analysis. You can now put in all the words analysis of Veda. Atma, Ishvara, Paramatma, all the same thing. So Veda should be, the way we think about a Veda is some ancient books consisting of, the Karmakanda Vedic, the Karmakandic Vedic portions, the Upanishads, and so on. All the different kind of Vedas, Rig Veda, and Krishna Yajurveda. This is how we think. The fact of the matter is that Veda means the knowledge, the complete knowledge, and out of which comes specific knowledges, worldly knowledge, laukika jnanam. But the complete jnanam is the Vedas. The Vedas is the part of it is the very form of Ishvara, always there, like space. You cannot destroy it. It's a complete knowledge. So this is what we need to understand, is that we can have some specific knowledge to solve specific problems, which we do, right? Knowledge of medicine to cure us of any kind of a disease. Knowledge of money so that we have an understanding of what my protection in life could be. How can I gain some security? All those kinds of knowledges we are aware of, but they are all very specific knowledges that are meant for specific problems. But really speaking, what we are all seeking, if we really analyze it, is a complete knowledge. And at this moment, I don't have that complete knowledge, without which nothing is not known, nothing is known. That is Vedas. And so this is what we started this section with, which is called Apaurusheyata ka abhipraya. So this jnanam is apaurusheyata, means that this is a complete knowledge which is not specific to an individual. It really is the very essence of the whole knowledge. Self-knowledge. That's what it is, jnanam. So now we are describing what the knowledge means. So here, as you know, I'm trying very hard not to call it consciousness, because consciousness generates a completely erroneous way of looking at my truth, my satta. Consciousness just means that there is some kind of a property that I have of being conscious. And that may be true from the standpoint of a human being. But if we want a complete knowledge, which means that we are not just human beings. See, that's the thing that we have to understand. Because the limits of my worldly knowledge ends with, I am a human being. This is where it ends. And then all the specificity of actions, of gunas with respect to the humanness. But I'm something much more than that. I'm not just a human being. I am the very essence of jnanam. So again, you can say this is not consciousness. This is satta. This is the truth. Truth meaning one which is never subject to any conditions. This is who I am. And I need to understand it, because I don't understand it yet. My self-evaluation, my conclusions are based on laukika jnanam. That I'm a human being is a laukika jnanam. That I am jnanam is the real complete knowledge. So we are trying to analyze it. Excuse me. And we are looking at various aspects of that analysis. There's about 12, 13 different aspects that we need to examine. And one by one, we will examine where I'm making the mistake, where I am not understanding the truth of who I am, more than a human being. So with respect to that, in the last class 2 weeks ago, we had said that this jnanam is independent of time. Kalataha aparichinnaha iti. We went through that. So maybe basically I'll just revise it very quickly just to, again, I request that before each class, you actually go through the notes from the previous class. It's very helpful. So I would really urge you to do that. And this will happen, we're going to start a very comprehensive course on the Karika very shortly, maybe in another few weeks or so. I'm gathering up all the background for it so that we can announce it and so on. So there, it'll be almost essential that before each class, you review the previous classes. This is always the case. But in the case of the Mandukya Karika, which will be a very specific course of study over several months, this habit of a sense of continuity would be very useful. In fact, just this morning I was thinking that perhaps what we might do, I haven't made up my mind yet, that both the classes, Tuesday night class and Saturday night class, will be on the same topic, so that you don't have a full week, and sometimes even more than that, to kind of get away from it. You have it twice a week. So I may begin with once a week, but I'm thinking that for serious students that want to enroll in this course, very comprehensive course of Vedanta, then I might have both the classes devoted to that, so that you only have 3 or 4 days of interval. Really, it should be done every day. And, I think you probably don't have the time. I may be able to pull out some time out of my life, but I know that you may not be able to. So, not every day, but very often we should really, concentrate on focus on, not concentrate, but focus on the subject matter. So, anyway, I'll announce that when I'm ready to do it, working on it. But just to quickly revise what we did last week, Jnanam is not kalataha parichinna. It is not limited by time. And so there we saw, how is that? How is it that the Jnanam, which is I, which is the Sakshi, which is the Atma, which is Ishvara, which is Paramatma, how is it that it is not limited by time? So we went through some analysis of that, and we saw that just examine what is time. So there are variations in the time. There is the past time, there is a present time, there is a future time. How is that? Where is it? Let's examine it. Is it something that has these variations? Does time itself has variations? Is there some kind of a vastu, some kind of a thing called time, which has these variations? Is that the case? If so, where is it? Where is that vastu called time? So if we continue to think about that, we say perhaps that vastu is independent. It is there with having these variations. Perhaps, I'm not sure, but let's say that it is there. If that is the case, does it have these variations, or doesn't it have any variations? Like if you have some parts to it, like bricks of a building, then it has some variations. Some bricks can be strong, some cannot not be, can be weak. They can be put together, they can be taken apart. So that is also, is time something like that? Is it past has a part, present has a part, future has a part? So if you think about it, no, not really. It doesn't appear to be that. All we can say is that time by itself does not have any independent, what we call satta. Satta means presence, ability to be. It doesn't have that. It depends on the individual. Okay? So that means that this is a relative definition of time which is highly dependent on, conditioned on an individual. That's all. So if it is a past time, it is specific to an individual. If it is future time, it is specific to an individual. So as long as the individual is there, there is some kind of a gradation of time. But if otherwise, time by itself doesn't have any gradations. Suppose you say that no, it does have some gradations. By itself, there is some kind of a vastu, it has its own. All right, let's take that view. This is exactly, if you understand, this is in Vedanta. So these binary methods of analysis is adopted all over the place. I'm sure that when you study the Shankara Bhashya, it raises a question. Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says it's remarkable how a complex problem is tackled in Vedanta. So complex problems, and this is where it's called Purva Paksha Siddhanta. So what happens is that the complex problem is split up more until you start with a duality. Is it this or is it that? The third thing is not possible. Then you say the first one is not possible. Maybe the second one is possible. If the second one is not possible, then there is something else that we have to understand. So here in the case of time, is it niravayava or is it savayava? If it appears to be niravayava because we cannot grasp time and say, okay, this is where it is. No, you can't do that. It's some kind of a ultimately what it is this is a very element of the Maya, that you cannot have expression without time and space. Those are they are the building blocks, if you may, of this whole picture. So there is not niravayava. Supposing you say, okay, it's not niravayava, it has some parts to it, okay? In that case, who understands the parts? Who says that it has parts? Well, I say it has parts because it has past, present, and the future. All right. If you say you are aware of it, that means you are not the time. You are aware of the time. Yeah, that's true. I'm aware of the time. I'm the one that decides what is past, what is future. So that means either way, that jnanam, that apaurusheyata, that sakshi, that atma is aware of the time. And the time does not affect it. Because I am the same Atma that says this is past time. Yesterday is past time. Tomorrow is future time. I am the one who is constantly aware of that. So it's very clear that jnanam, which is the very nature of the Atma, which is the swarupa of the Atma, is independent of time, is not affected by time. And also another very important thing to consider again and again, this is something that I will bring up, that Atma is Satsvarupaha. Satsvarupaha. What does that mean? That Jnanam is always there. Always there. Never not there. That Jnanam. Not the expression of the Jnanam as a human being. It's not what we were talking about. It's that Jnanam is always there. And that Jnanam blesses the time. The satta of this Jnanam is the one that imparts the satta to anything else. It imparts it to time. It sort of says, yes, there was a past tense. Yes, there is a present tense. Yes, there will be tomorrow. I am the one that provides the satta. And what I provide the satta to comes and goes. See, this is exactly what is happening. I mean, we give the very familiar examples. But those are examples that you should see this applies to me. Familiar examples is that the gold is the one that provides its satta to the ornaments. There is no satta. Satta means the beingness, the truth of the ornaments. It only comes from the gold or so whatever metal it is made out of. Same thing with clay pots. So you should see this. I am the satta. I am. I am. That I amness never goes. That is the satta. That is the jnanam. That is the apaurusheyata. This is Paramatma. This is Ishvara. And it is the one which provides satta to everything that I see, including time. Now we will look at some other aspects of it, but right now focus on time. So therefore time does not limit the satta. In fact, what happens is that the time is what is called mithya. How do we mean mithya? Anirvachaniya. What do you mean by anirvachaniya? It means that it is not so clearly definable that it has its own satta. It is dependent. And so, for example, in the case of time, you cannot say it is not there because I do have experience. I have pratiti. I have an experience of time. So you cannot say it is not there. But then if you really start to look for it, it disappears. It's not there. Only the I, the prana, the jnanam remains. This is the definition of mithya. That So this is the very famous statement, Vacharambanam Jnanade. Vacharambanam, Vacharambanam, anyway, something like that. I don't remember that. Vacharambanam Nittika eva satyam. Vacharambanam namadheyam. Yeah, sorry. Vacharambanam namadheyam mrittika eva satyam. Namadheyam. Yeah, that's the word I couldn't remember. So what it means is that an ornament has a name. So you can say this is a ring. And so it has some kind of a function and some name is there. But namadheyam, nama matram alone. But as far as the satyam goes, gold is the satyam. In this case, mrittika means the very material of making pots. So you can say this is a cup, this is a saucer. Yes, namadheyam. But the reality of the cup is also clay. The reality of the saucer is also clay. Similarly, here also, you can say time also is like that. It is namadheyam. That is really what is happening. Namadheyam. It is mithya. It can, yes, there is something called past. So for our vyavahara, yes, we have to have. Is it past? Has it happened yet? No, it hasn't happened yet. So for some kind of a transaction, we split the times. But the jnanam that provides the satta to past, future, present, and so on is always there. You. Jnanam. I wouldn't say consciousness. That just completely takes it away into a different feeling. Just the jnanam. That is the Veda. That is the apaurushayata. Jnanam. So therefore, to summarize, we went through all this, that kalataha jnanam is aparichinnaha. Has nothing to do with it. You say the Sakshi is not bothered by time because it is the very Satta, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. This is an analysis from the standpoint of time. Now we go to the next one, number 4. Where we say jnanam deshataha aparichinnaha. Same jnanam that has no limitation with respect to space. So let's analyze space. So we say east, west, north, south. So these gradations, like the time gradations, are they a property of space itself? Is there a vastu? Is there an independent entity called space that has these possible gradations of east, west, north, and south? So this is one viewpoint. Maybe it does. The second viewpoint is East and West are relative to heavenly bodies. To earth, to the sun, to the moon, to the stars. See, just like the time is specific to an individual, similarly the space, is it due by itself, it has all its variations, or is it variation relative to heavenly bodies? Which of them is true? If you think about it, there is no such thing as intrinsically part of a thing called vastu called space, desha. So you can say that East and West are very specific to the individuals relative to which you are defining, isn't it? And furthermore, what you find is that East and West also are dependent on the jiva, the human being, or any other jiva. What is East with respect to one position becomes West. The California is west of the East Coast, but it is east of Hawaii. These are all relative definitions. There is no such thing as desha by itself. Similarly, what you find is that concepts like far, near, are all specific to the situation with a human being. Like, for example, in a dream. In a dream you could have very far. In fact, it was interesting. This morning I had a dream just before I wake up, so I can remember it. And again, it's very interesting. My dreams have one very constant thing, which is exactly, I think it's a reflection of my life here also, that I'm seeking. I'm asking people for directions. Good, it is very good. I'm very happy that I'm seeking. All of us are seeking, it's not just me. But I'm very happy that the seeking has become a very fundamental part of my life. What is the truth? What do I know? What do I do? I'm getting old. How do I escape this sense of limitation? I'm seeking. And seeking with the help of very knowledgeable people who know Vedas. So this is what my life has been, really speaking. It hasn't, all the other things like accomplishments and money and house and so on are secondary, but I'm seeking. I find the same thing happens in my dream also. When I dream also, my one constant thing is I'm asking people. I remember this one dream that I had last night, that I'm asking, how far is this one place I'm seeking for? I can't remember what I'm seeking for, but I do remember that I was asking. So the person says, it's not that far. If you went in that direction, then you turn left, then, and like that, there was something going on. So here's a situation. And you know, the funny part is, I tell you, the more I hope very well, I really This is going to be a big topic in our Karika when we start this. So I'm just giving you a small sample of it. But I really urge those of you that have had a very recent dream that you wake up from is to really close your eyes for just a second after you wake up and just give thought to how real it looked to you when you were dreaming. The more you do that, and then to say that really speaking, what I am seeing here is fundamentally not different because it's a projection of my mind. Like the reality in the dream is also a projection of my mind. What is far and what is near had some satta in the dream. Because I'm not wasting my time in the dream. I really was looking for a place. I remember this so well. It's a very elaborate thing. And for some reason, in my dreams, I have multiple levels. So going from one level to another through either walking or through an elevator becomes very part of it. Strange. Anyway, but I'm seeking. And in part of that seeking, I have a very specific feeling of what is far, what is near. Just like I have it here. Here's Swami Akhandananda had said in one of the recent books that I was reading from him. He said, you know what really is complicating of my understanding is that in a dream, the setup is different every time. True. Every dream, there may be some common things. Like, for example, I often dream about my parents who are no longer there. This is a very, very interesting thing. There is a definition about the Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti says it can bring people who are not there to you as though they are there. Amazing. One which is to make a presence of something which is not there is the classic hallmark of Maya. So, Swami Akhandananda said what happens is that in the dream, every dream is a different setup. And while the setup is there, it looks very real. There is farness, there is closeness, there is past time, there is a future time. Time and space are the fundamental building blocks of your projection of the mind, of any vyavahara. So they are there in the dream also. So there you have a very specific idea of what it is. But there is a difference between dream and waking state. What is the difference? In the dream, because all the setups are continuously changing, you do not develop any raga dvesha towards it, any likes and dislikes towards it. It just comes and goes before you develop any kind of an attachment, it is gone. But in the case of Jagrata Avastha, because the setup for a length of time, 60, 80, 100 years, does not change drastically. We have the same spouses, we have the same mothers and fathers, same children for a while. You try to develop ragadvesha towards it. That's all the difference. And those ragadveshas give reality to something which is not real. You yourself provide a sense of belonging, because we're hungry for belonging to who I am. And because I don't know that, I am attached to things that I see, because they are repetitive. Otherwise, the dream and the waking is not any different. It's the same. So anyway, going back to the analogy of the space. So the space is very specific to a setup. That's all. There's no intrinsic truth to space, as there is no intrinsic truth to time. It is all a function of where you are at what time. And again, like in the case of the time, the satta for the space is given by the jnanam. My satta remains the same, and I give the satta to far. So any kind, like for example in the dream, the satta of the dream is imparted by the jnanam, by the sakshi, by the atma. You see how this is done? Amazing. What a srishti. And again, the satta, when I say it comes from you, it's not the individual, but the Paramatma acting as the Antaryami. This is what is the meaning of, this is the abhipraya of apaurusheyata. This is why the title of this whole section, apaurusheyata ka abhipraya, is so right on the target. So it is not an individualistic creation. It is the total creation where you are playing a kind of a role in it. That's all. But an amazing part is that when you think about it, your satta, your truth, is the providing the very backdrop of all the experiences, all the dream. See, in the dream also, far and looking for it, and far and close, and answers by people. It's right here. If you open that door, then you turn left. I remember this part I remember from the dream. Somebody said, well, you can't see it from here, but if you go in that direction, there is a door, then you turn left, and it is there. And I even remember this, that I followed the instructions, and I went there, and there was some people that were sitting there, and it did not provide what I was looking for. And that's all I remember, is that I was disappointed. That's not what I was asking for. So either the person didn't know, All of this is happening in the dream. And who is really providing that satta? Me, the very Atma. And there is a kind of a play and then it's gone. This is exactly what is happening in our life. There is a huge amount of playing, role playing. And I am the one that is providing the satta for it. This is what we have to see. It's a very beautiful truth. But it comes from really focus and understanding and shraddha. And so it says in this analysis, my dear, all the Shastra says, Jnanam deshataha aparichinnaha. It is not conditioned or limited by space. Implications are enormous. I am there, and the space that I'm in is part of my role playing as a human being. But there is no space in the jnanam. The specificity of time and space and so on are not there in the jnanam. See this clearly. You are the one that has to see it. We have the one to see it. It is the truth. Okay. So I think that we will leave that topic at that point. Let's go to the next topic. So the last two were Jnanam kalataha parichinnaha deshataha parichinnaha. It is unlimited, not limited by time or space. Now we say Jnanam vishayataha aparichinnaha. Jnanam is not limited by any objects. Vishayataha. Taha here means it's the tasil. So tasil, for those of you that study Sanskrit, tasil means the fifth case. So the fifth case means, tasil means, so this is the meaning of taha, vishayataha, deshataha, kalataha. Tasil means logic. From the standpoint of relevance also, but logical relevance. You see, so one part is that you can say the fifth case is, where did you come from? So the source of something, or why did this happen? Why did this happen? This is also put in the fifth case. Very funny, just something came to me. Yesterday my son were talking to me and he was so, he's really following, and he's make us also in our old age follow the beauty of the young kids growing up. He was very happy that his older child Sanya, who is now 2 years and 4 months old, is now asking why. They're very beautiful. This is a growth of the individual. Why? Everything is why. Before that, she didn't know this concept of why. And so you can say, where did you come from? That's the fifth case. Here, tasil means from the standpoint of. Again, this is a question with reference to. Jnanam vishayataha aparichinnaha. The knowledge which is you is not limited by objects. So here Swami Akhandananda says, I'm just following his specific, it's just so beautiful how precise and how complete his thinking is in these matters. So the first thing he says is, consider whether objects are dependent on time or space. Time and space, and or space. Any objects that you take, you have to analyze whether it has any relevance to time and space. The relevance meaning that it has some apekshata. What is called apekshata means that, well, apekshata means relevance. What it means is, does it have any connection? The answer is yes. You cannot say something is, that this book is, without having the coordinates of now and here, isn't it? So of course it has dependence on time and space. And in fact, Swamiji points out that time and space, as we saw earlier, only have reference to specific objects or people. So both are mutually dependent on each other. On one case you have objects, and in the other case you have this two-axis time and space. They are both interdependent. Vacharambanam namadeyam mrittika ekva satyam. That means that they are, anything which is interdependent is mithya. That's one thing. Another thing is, very beautiful, we have already gone over the fact that both time and space are mithya. They are not real. So how can objects that depend upon time and space have its own reality? It cannot. The very substance of things based on time and space, the time and space itself is mithya. So its derivatives, its relevance, its conditionality also must be mithya. Very clear. So how can you see, what I'm saying is that time and space do not affect the jnana, because that is the basic jnana which makes time and space to be real. And if time and space do not affect the jnana, then how can the effects of time and space in the form of objects affect the jnana? They are children of time and space. So if the father and mother itself are mithya, then the children are even all more mithya. Beautiful. So really speaking, what we see is objects also do not affect jnana. Just 1 second, let me go ahead and make sure that I'm covering all the points that I thought about. Okay. So the objects that we experience, and this is a very big thing, really. So it is such a big thing that our mind refuses to accept it. And so it has to be tackled in a very persuasive manner. That what it means is that the time and space itself is mithya, which means that it is anirvachaniyam. So the objects also are anirvachaniyam. So let's continue with that. So the objects that you see, objects that you experience, or the ones that which are visible to you. There's a Sanskrit word for it called pratiyamanam. Pratiyamana means there is some kind of an experience, some kind of a visibility is there. Objects I'm talking about. So the objects are mithya. In what way? You cannot say that the objects are not there because I see them. You cannot say that it is there. You cannot say it is there as an independent object. This is the problem we have. You see, look at this. The problem we have is we feel that objects are there. And in fact, we embellish it by saying objects are there, they have been there for a long time, and I come and go. This is how my feeling is, isn't it? Objects are there independent, but I come and go. All right, this is accurate, really speaking. But in this conclusion that I come and go, who are you referring to, if I may ask? Will you not always conclude me as an individual, as a human being? Yeah. You may say that. You may say that you are there as a human being, which is with some limited time. You were not there a long time ago, and after a long time ago, hopefully, God bless you, you may not be there. But the other objects are there already. So all this kind of a talk refers to your conclusion as a human being, isn't it? No question. We are not talking about this analysis as a human being. We are talking about it as jnanam. In jnanam, this is not true. What is true is that objects are like forms of the jnanam, anirvachaniyam. You cannot say they are not there, and you cannot say that they are there. Because if they are there, they will be independently there. And we find that's not true. Because in order for objects to be there, it has to be blessed by the jnanam. You as a sakshi must be there for any objects to be there. No difference between the same analysis between desha and kala. Objects do not have their own reality. This is where the avasthatrayata sakshitvam comes. Forget about their own reality. Within 24 hours, their reality goes. You create a different set of objects in the dream, different set of objects in the waking, and both of them disappear in sleep. What kind of reality is there? Reality means an independent turiya. Jnanam, I am. I am asleep. I am dreaming. I am awake. I am a participant. I am a recipient. I am. All these other things come and go. So the objects also are mithya. They are the ones who are blessed by the jnanam. And because of the setup being repeated, I develop a sense of reality. I impart a sense of reality to them which they don't even deserve. It is my own ignorance and my own problems on how we approach things that I give reality to the world. And then I become limited by it. All the time not understanding that objects are dependent on the jnanam. The jnanam is not dependent on the objects. And the same analysis can be done about objects as we did before. Are the objects different from jnanam, or are they the same as jnanam? Same thing with the, same analysis with pots and clay. Are the pots different from the clay, or are they the same as clay? So here this is something even more personal and more important and more encompassing. Are the objects the same as jnanam, or are the objects different from the jnanam? If the objects are the same as jnanam, which is the sat swarupam, trikala abaditam, one which is, that's the definition of sat, that's the definition of jnanam, that it is independent of time and space or any other condition. That is the definition. So now the question is, are the Vishayas the same as Jnanam? Or are they different from the Jnanam? Let's look at both points of view. So if it is the same as Jnanam, then there is no issue. The whole world is nothing but me. So you say, no, there is some existence of objects other than me. Again, the issue comes in, when you say me, who do you mean by to be me? I agree that they are different from the human being, but I'm talking about, are they different from Jnanam? So either if the object is the same as Jnanam, then there's no issue. Suppose you say, no, they are separate from the Jnanam. Then, this is a very interesting case. If they are separate from the Jnanam, then an interesting conclusion can be drawn. If they are different from Jnanam, which is Sat Swarupam, different from Sat is Asat. Yeah, I'll read this one. I still remember Swami the Khandanandas in Hindi. Yeah. So I'll read a small paragraph. For those of you that know Hindi will enjoy it. Otherwise, I will also explain it. I'm almost done. So in this one paragraph, he says, Ye prithak prithak pratiyamanam vishaya sanmatra hi hai ya kuch aur hai. Sanmatra means jnanam. यदि सन्मात्र ही हैं तो इनमें भेद की कल्पना का क्या आधार है? What is the basis for your thinking? If it is the same, then what is the basis of your thinking that they are different? निराधार है. यदि सन्मात्र ही हैं तो इनमें भेद की कल्पना का क्या आधार है? फिर तो इन्हें त्रिकाल आबाद्य सत्ता से भिन्न समझा ही नहीं जा सकता. That means that you cannot see them as being separate from Satta. और यदि ये सन्मात्र से भिन्न हैं तो इन्हें नितांत असत कहने में क्या आपत्ति है? Beautiful. What a lovely language he used. So he says that suppose that they are different from Sat, then what is your problem in not saying that they are Asat? Because Sat is this is only one Sat, which is Apaurusheyata. So if they are different from the Apaurusheyata, then they can only be Asat. He says, Kya apatti hai? Means what's keeping you from? Why are you clinging to this idea that they are independently separate from you? So in conclusion, we say that the very idea of objects whose beginning, continuation and ends cannot be proven, whose basis is self-existing and never subject to negation, whose thoughts cannot even be conceived without jnanam, that those objects limit the jnanam is not reasonable. So it is proven vishayataha jnanam aparichinnaha. So we have tackled another aspect of jnanam. And with that, we'll take up a new topic in next week. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Happy all of you are here. Yeah, I think Shantikumar, you're right. These are things that really need to be revised, not only revised, but revisited from time to time until it becomes, this is the very natural thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That in a way, this is kind of like, I feel that from my experience, the understanding of the truth kind of resembles first complete darkness, like for example the sunlight before dawn. There is complete absence of sunlight. Then there is some light, there is some light and there is sunlight, but there might be fog, as it happened this morning. I remember this, getting up early in the morning. That's why this example is that in the beginning you are just completely groping because you have no lights are on, sun is not there, and the presence of things are not possible. Then after that, the sun does rise, but there is fog. So in a fog, it's interesting things happen. That you can kind of see some things. You should not be driving in a fog, but you can slowly start doing it, but you don't know the details of everything. So from my experience, I also find that really, at first I didn't know anything until I got taught by Mahatmas. And even after that, the fog lingers on because the completeness of the knowledge is not yet clear. This is what is called sadhana chatushtaya, where your understanding, your ability is slowly becoming better. And the same drishti becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, and the fog dissipates. done. This is what called Sakshat Aparokshat Jnanam. So this is very natural, and good. Happy that today's class was somewhat. I really think that this is really just a very, what I would call is a succinct idea of what we are going to be studying in the Karika. So you'll have much more time to revise that. So look forward to starting that course, and I hope many of you avail in that. I'll give you much more. There's a lot of things that are going through my mind on starting that course. So in the next week or two, maybe a little bit more than that, I will announce it, and then we will go through that. Okay, good to see you all. Hope to see you next week. Hari Om.